Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to the Whiskey Cove. And on today's episode, we look at 9 whiskeys that as soon as I finish the bottle, I'm going out and buying another one. Run the video. Alright then folks, welcome back to the Whiskey Cove for what is of course, as always, a very exciting next episode of the Whiskey Cove. So today we look at 9 whiskeys that as soon as the bottle is pretty much dead, I'm already at the store buying another one. These are constant rebuys. Like I said, when that bottle is done, you're going out and getting another one right away without even thinking about it. For the very most part, for the state of Colorado, none of these, apart from one, is highly, I wouldn't say highly allocated, but it's still a very hard bottle to get. But that being said, even on some of the dark websites, if you like, it's probably going to set you back around $100 anyway. So not a terrible outlay. Of course, you know, spend as much money on whiskey as you like. But for me, I'm kind of okay. I haven't paid that much for this bottle, but I'm kind of okay. And we'll see that one at the end. But how about we just go ahead and just dive straight into this list. And if you feel that I've missed out on any of these bottles or something that I've completely glossed over, then let us know down in the comments. So with that being said, bottle number 1, and we're going down to Kentucky, and that is of course this list would not be complete without a Maker's Mark bottle, and that is because we are including Maker's Mark cask strength. Do I think this is the best Maker's Mark? No. I think the Maker's Mark Cellar Aged and the BRT02 and a lot of their store picks are very, very good. But if we're talking about a very kind of a very traditional offering, core lineup, if you like, Maker's Mark cask strength hits home. It's similar in somewhat to like a Weller Full Proof. It's kind of, I wouldn't even say it's a poor man's Weller Full Proof, because it does stand up very well to Weller Full Proof. It is a wheated bourbon. It does use that soft red winter wheat that Maker's Mark do use. And if you don't know much about Maker's Mark, is that they constantly rotate their warehouses. So the bottom barrels will slowly make their way up to the top, and the top ones will slowly come back down. So they're constantly moving to get kind of the consistency across the label, which is why if you want a single barrel Maker's Mark or the stave collection Maker's Mark, they don't have single barrels. You kind of have to make your own with different finishing staves because of that consistency. This is going to set you back around $60 in today's market. Cask strength, this is 56.25%. They're not all the same ABV or proof. They kind of sit somewhere in that line. But for that value, and for a bottle that you can find in most liquor stores across the United States of America and sometimes other places, I think this is just a no-brainer. Anytime this is empty, I'm buying another one that was Maker's Mark cask strength. Next up, we are going to the Jim Beam Distillery, and of course, we have Old Grandad 114. 114 or 114 representing the 114 horses of pure proof that's gone into this bottle. 114 proof, 57% ABV. MSRP is probably about $25 to $30. I've seen it go up a little bit more than that. I wouldn't like to pay more than about $34 for this. If you don't like Jim Beam Distillate, you're probably not going to be the biggest fan of this. If you like something like a Stag Junior, Benchmark Full Proof, and some of the other stuff like the Knob Creek picks that these guys do, or maybe even some of the Elijah Craigs, you'll probably like this. I think this is similar to a Wild Turkey Rare Breed as well, but it's cheaper. For the most part, it's findable. It does have like a bacon spice, cinnamon, all spicy kind of palate. You know, you definitely know you're drinking a bit of a cinnamon bomb there. But it's so complex for the ABV, and it has the proof there as well, and a really nice touch of vanilla. And I don't really get the peanut that I get from a lot of Jim Beam products. I get some stone fruit in there as well, and it's really become a favorite of the Whiskey Cove in the price category that it sits at. For what I pay for them in Colorado, it's about $25 to $30, 114, 57% ABV. I think it's worth it every time. When this thing is done, I will be definitely going out down into my drawer here and pulling out another one, because I have like 5 of these in back stock already. That is Old Grandad 114. Next up, we are taking a trip down to Tennessee, and that is of course Jack Daniel's Barrel Proof. One of the favorite whiskeys here on the Whiskey Cove, because of the sweetness that it offers, the butterscotch, the toffee, the caramels, the maple syrup. It has all those wonderful charred sweet notes that you want from a great whiskey, but then it backs it up with some savory banana nut bread there as well. This is basically, you go into IHOP, you pick up the pancake syrup. It's like that, but this is alcohol, so it has a little bit of that ABV burn. If I wanted to reach for a whiskey in the morning, I don't drink first thing when I get up, but if I was on vacation, and it's always 5 o'clock when you're on vacation, and I'm reaching, I'm having some pancakes, I might want to pour a drizzle of this on, slide in some bananas, crumble some pecans on there as well, and just chow down like it's no tomorrow. A phenomenal tasting whiskey. It is not a bourbon. It is and it isn't. We won't get into that. This one is going to be, this is 64.9%. This is the Jack Daniel's single barrel proof. They are somewhat different, the single barrels, but there's not much. It's all quite consistent. Jack Daniel's are known for the consistency, and even though they're single barrels, I can't really pick up very small, subtle variations between the single barrels, so very small indeed. Great tasting whiskey. That is going to be another great bottle that I'm just going to buy as soon as it's empty. I have another one or two here. The Jack Daniel's rye that we could have put on this list here today, just as good. We didn't, so we tried to stick to more kind of bourbon. Yes, that's a Tennessee whiskey, but we tried to stick there, although we do have a rye on this list. Next up, and heck, let's just do that right now. Sagamore Spirits Double Oaked. So this is sourced from MGP, and then they bring it back to their Maryland. I believe it is Maryland. I always have to check. Baltimore, Maryland, yes. And then they finish it. So they double oak it, they use their own barrel, they re-char it, and they put this stuff. So if you are somewhat new around here, and I'm thinking last 18 months or so, this whiskey won the Whiskey of the Year for the Whiskey Cove in 2022. Because we really like it, we love it. I have a backup here already because that's how much I need. Maybe I needed to call this video whiskeys I always have backups on. Maybe that needs to be a video in the future. However, as soon as this is empty, I'll be cracking open a new one, and I'll be going to a store getting a backup. So they had these in Costco about 12 months ago, and they were just selling them for a really cheap price. I think it was like $48, which is pretty insane. I think you're probably expecting more closer to $60 out there. Like I said, it is a rye. I can't remember what the mash bill is off the top of my head, but it's only aged 4 to 5 years, and you'd never guess it, because it does also drink very sweet, like the Jack Daniel's single barrel proof, but it has some more of that spicier rye presence, that rolled anise, rolled rye seed that you get from the top of bread. Touch of those flavors, but nothing that consumes it. It's all about the sweetness. It's all about the double oak, the marshmallows, the Rice Krispie bar type notes. New charred American oak as well. Phenomenal bottle. Great addition to this list. That is the Sagamore Spirits Double Oaked. Let's go back to Kentucky and let's do these bottles together. And this list would not be complete with two absolute bangers of the Old Forester lineup. Let's be honest, probably could have included a couple more on this. As we found out recently by doing the Old Forester blind, I really like Old Forester 1897. And I also could have included this here. You know, heck, actually, this is kind of my channel. Old Forester 1897 is a bottle that if I run out, I don't have a backup, I'm going out to get another one. Very surprised at how good this was. Just didn't really experience it too much before this year. Just got into a lot more. Wonderful bottle, and it's somewhat different than these two. 1910, a toasted bourbon. We get maybe a little bit of theme of some of these whiskeys that I like, and it's like double oak toasted, those sort of vibes. About $60 for that one, 1897 or $50, and then the 1920 is probably one of the more harder ones for you to find. Expect $60 or so. I wouldn't pay more than those for these bottles, just because they're not really allocated, and you should be able to find them if you visit a couple of stores there as well. So very happy that I'm able to get these on the regular. Heck, if there was one whiskey that's not allocated that I could kind of live off, you know, like if we did the video, you only need 5 bourbons, I think I could just do it with the Old Forester lineup. That's how much I like Old Forester. That is the 1920, 1910, and 1897. I could have included the 1924 on this list. However, that's so allocated, I think it just didn't make sense. That is these 3 bottles. Moving on, and we are going to visit the new added brand to the Sazerac portfolio, and that is Early Times Bottled in Bond. So my daily drink a couple of years ago was Ancient Age 10, because we are able to get that in northern Colorado and in Wyoming in the like 1.75 litre bottles, like the tall boys I have over my shoulder here. So that was my daily sipper. However, Early Times Bottled in Bond has just kind of consumed that spot, if you like. 50% ABV, 100 proof, aged at least 4 years. We know that. This has the same mash bill as King of Kentucky, and we know that this used to be a Brown-Forman product before Forrester sold it to Sazerac. So you don't know for sure, but if it's the same mash bill, I wonder if this is just a more youthful version of the King of Kentucky. You could argue that, you know, maybe there could be other specifications. Maybe the King of Kentucky's could be aged higher in the warehouses, or the King of Kentucky's could just be honey barrels of this stuff. Yes, that's changed now because Sazerac has taken over the label. The distillate hasn't changed too much for me outside of the kind of the regular different bottlings that you get. You know, you can get as much consistency across the board when it comes to whiskey, but you're always going to get somewhat subtle differences between bottles, and that's just kind of the small batches that they put it together. Expect maybe this taste to change here in the next couple of years, because if it's going to be Sazerac distilling that mash bill here now, they've owned it for about 3 years, close to 3 years at this point. So we might see some variation, what I predict coming up here. However, $25 or so might be a hard bottle for some folks to find. In Colorado, it's on basically every shelf here. It can be marked up a little bit more to like $35. I wouldn't pay that for it. But then if I poured this in a glass and you tasted it, you wouldn't be able to tell it was a $35 bottle. If I told you it was a $60 bottle, you'd be like, yes, I'll buy that for $60. So when I say I wouldn't pay more than $35, that is just kind of me being like a frugal, I guess, in a way, and that I don't want to overpay for a whiskey. However, great value for money. You also get the 1 liter as well, so you get a little extra something for your money. 2 bottles left, and last but one, the penultimate bottle. And we always have to have an Elijah Craig barrel proof. I have multiple different Elijah Craig barrel proofs here, but as soon as I start getting low, or if I finish off a bottle, I have to go out and get one. This is one we opened fairly recently. This is the C923 batch, the 13-year, 7-month-old, 66.5% ABV bottle. This was known to be quite a special bottle in most recent times when it comes to the Elijah Craig barrel proofs. There hasn't been a better one since, in my opinion. And also the one better before this was probably the B520. I know that because we blinded it with the B520, the C919 and the C920. With the C923, the B520 came on top just because I felt that they had a little bit more going for it. However, this did come second. This is very good. You get to taste a lot of that age with it as well. And for the value, you're paying about $70. Weird in Colorado, we hardly ever get the C batch. We get the A batches for days. We get some Bs, but just Cs are just non-existent. So hopefully, you know, Elijah Craig, if you're watching, please make one of the A's or B batches the absolute hitters of the years, or the hitter of the year, because we just can't get the Cs. But if you're able to get them, you're gonna expect to pay around $70, maybe $80. You can also get some of the private barrel selects. I suggest really just sticking to the A, Bs, and Cs personally. I just think that's better value for money, because the single barrels always seem to be marked up a little bit more, and they're a little bit more youthful than like a 13, 12 year, or even like an 11 year. They're mostly like 8, 9s, and 10s. Great value for money, and a bottle that we will always buy here on the Whiskey Cove. So then last bottle, and the most allocated bottle on this list, and I had to include this bottle on this list just because I love it so much. Anytime I have an empty one, what I usually do is I pick up the phone or get it on the old text, and I call a buddy that I have in Ohio. That's a clue there. And I say, look, you know, I've run out of this bottle. Here's some of the bottles that I have. Are you interested in switching any? If you can get any of these bottles. And that is, of course, because Ohio is the motherland of Weller 107 Special Reserve. For whatever reason, they just get this in the bucket load. It's still somewhat hard to get. You still have to like bounce around a lot, or get friendly with some of the stores and know the delivery times. But people pick these up sometimes in the cases. I was out in Ohio, and the King Supers or Fries or whatever it is they have out there, they had a case of these 12 sitting on the floor, but they had some weird rule that because it was a Sunday, I couldn't buy it and I had to wait for a certain day. I'll be honest with you, I probably would have picked up the case just because I wasn't going to be in Ohio anytime soon. MSRP on this is around $50. Here in Colorado, you're probably going to pay $80 if you see it. So if I'm going to buy it here in Colorado for $80, or I can pay $100 to get it sent to my house, I'm probably going to do that instead. or I'm probably just hopefully going to be able to trade for it. Maybe stuff like Henry McKenna, Elijah Craig, the barrel proofs. That's some of the stuff my friend can't get over in Ohio for the most part, that he was telling me. Like John J. Bowman single barrels he likes, so usually that's a pretty fair switch. John J. Bowman single barrel for me, and then one of these I'll get in return. So that was the last bottle. Yes, a very allocated bottle, and yes, a hard bottle for a lot of you folks to find. But with these 9 bottles, anytime they're going to be empty, anytime I don't have a backup, I'm definitely going out and picking up a new one. With that being said, hopefully you've enjoyed today's video as we drink through the world's whiskies one glass at a time. Thank you all for watching. Cheers.